absolutely 100% agree with all of those suggestions. So absolutely, product management does have an advantage here. You work closely in product operations with product management, particularly. You do work and support with to support engineers, designers, insights, data, product marketing, people like that. As well, with a great deal of overlap. But absolutely, product management is a focus, a big focus. So naturally, if you are a product manager or have been a product manager, you have some experience there. You have an advantage for sure. You know how those people work. You probably start to learn the pitfalls and the traps and the difficulties, the challenges, the inefficiencies that come with the role. But I want something very, very clear. That's not a prerequisite, and it shouldn't be. And to anybody that is now or in the future going to hire into product operations, please don't assume that it has to be that. There are lots of transferable skills from other areas. Project management, absolutely. There is so much overlap in terms of project management. You are asking people to do and work in a different way than they have been before. You are holding them to account over what they are doing and how they're doing it. You do have to ask them to do things that they don't necessarily want to do, but actually is for the good of the business. Quite often, in product operations, we are changing the way that people work, or we're asking them to do a new task, quite often a new report or something like that they haven't done before. They don't want to do because it's more work, and why would you? But you know what? It unlocks other areas of the business. It provides information to the business, and there will always be a net positive impact for the business by doing that. And so ultimately, I'm sorry, product managers, you have to do a bit more work. And that is firstly fine, that is expected, but it's something they don't want to do. And quite often does really overlap with project management as well. Business analysis, absolutely. There is huge amount of data to be involved with. Just generally in that space of kind of understanding the way that things work, understanding the data, understanding research and research approaches is a factor with product operations as well. Any other operations or ops type roles? So absolutely, there's a number of people say kind of operations manager. Absolutely, there is a huge amount of overlap there. In essence, it's so akin to product operations, just not necessarily with the product side of it. You are still understanding the ways that people work. You are still getting people to work in a particular way with a particular tool, having particular meetings and cadences, things like that. Business transformation. So if anybody has experience in change management or business business change, things like that. I saw a consultant come up as well. Yes, absolutely. People that are there to initiate or manage transformation within a business, because that is ultimately what is happening. You are transforming a department, a division on how they work. And yes, HR roles, was really pleased to see that pop up as well. Remember what I said right at the very start. This is fundamentally a role that is about people and understand how people work, and changing their behaviors, changing their habits. When we're introducing new ways of working, we want to be embedding new ways of working into their behaviors, because we want them to form a habit to do a job that they need to do. We don't want them to be after trying to remember, I've got to do step A and I do step B and do step C. We want it to become a habit. The best analogy I've got for this is learning to drive a car. So when we all start to learn to drive a car, It's complicated. I've got the gears to do here, and I've got a turn. I've got signals. What pedals do what, and I've got to turn around here. I've got to do certain maneuvers. And then once we pass tests and we've driven for a few years, we get to the stage whereby it's easy. We don't even think about it. I'm sure all of us have driven somewhere at some point and gone, "How did I get here? Did I actually drive the car?" Fantastic. You've got a habit. It's embedded into the way that you work. And so actually driving a car is then the process of driving a car is then as efficient as possible. And it's got the least amount of typically got the least amount of cognitive load on you for doing that task. That's what we want our customers, our product managers, etc., to do with all of these new things that we do. We want it to become a habit. And so understanding people, how people think, how people operate is really, really useful to this role. So fantastic. Thank you for your participation in that. Really great. So let's have a quick look at some transferable skills and traits. You're going to be sick and tired of me over the next rest of this session and next sessions while talking about communication. It's super important. From the very early areas of doing your research into understanding what needs to change in the department, in the division, in the business, you're communicating. Not just asking questions, not just presenting your findings, but truly listening to what people are saying it needs improvement. Not just across your leadership teams, not your line managers, but the people on the ground. Truly listening to actually what is the root of the problem. Many people I know on this call are in this session, sorry, are product managers already. This is 101. This is product management 101, talking to your customers, talking to your users, and really diving into what's the problem we're trying to solve. Not what they think, not what solution they say we need, but actually what is the true problem that needs to be solved. It's exactly the same here. And it's really diving into what that problem is and exploring that as much as possible. Because you're going to spend then an amount of time and resource in making changes. And we need to make sure those changes are correct. Empathy. You will be working with people that are struggling with their role because of the processes that are in place, lack of resources, various other reasons. And your role is, how can we best help the business, ergo helping them? And quite often, how do we help them without spending money, without making huge changes in terms of tools and whatnot? So actually, we need to be quite innovative in our solutions. But we need that empathy there to understand, hey, look, what are people, what's the problem here? And I really need to listen. Comes back into that communication side as well. Empathizing with those problems, putting yourself in their shoes, and really thinking through how we can help them. Absolutely strategic thinking. What's your strategy long term for product operations? What do you want in 6, 12, 18, 24 months for the business, or at least the areas of the business that you're involved with, to look like? How will they be operating? And a big part of what we will talk about next week in terms of discovery is about coming up with that strategy. Product operations is also very strategic, also very tactical, particularly if you are the first or only product operations person in the business. You will be doing you'll be doing all of the planning, and then you'll be executing as well. It's not just around coming up with the plans and what it's going to look like, what that transformational change is going to be, but it's putting it into place. And you will spend, particularly in the first 6 months, if not longer, an inordinate amount of time on lots and lots of tactical work, tactical changes. This will be things like the software that we use. If we use Jira or Asana as our task management and user story platform, making sure that that's right. Is it aligned across all of the different teams and squads? Are we using it to its best? Are we efficient in our use of it? Are we using that across other departments around the business as well? Can we share resources? Can we share information? And you'll be in the weeds, making those tweaks, making those changes. So coming in and or having that experience and skill of being able to switch from a very strategic mindset to being, hey, now I need to just get on and do and implement. And I might have to spend a day, a week in the weeds making changes. I'll give you an example. In January, most January and February actually this year, I've spent a huge amount of time completely rebuilding our Airtable implementation. That's where our product managers live and work and write down all of their initiatives, objectives, everything else like that. Days, weeks even of just tweaking it and getting it into, turning it into a fully fledged database that now all links together, is super efficient, and we are sharing huge amounts of that information with stakeholders, internally and externally, of what's happening, what's coming, and having a dialogue of the plans that's going on. I had to get in and do that because firstly I've got nobody else to do that where I am at the moment. It had to be done, and it had to be done fairly quickly because it has now unlocked so much more moving forwards. Product tools, data analytics. So if you have skills in any particular product tool, so I'm talking things like Jira, Confluence, Notion, Airtable, ClickUp, Miro, Pendo, Amplitude, those sorts of typical product management platforms. Where you will have gone, if you're a product manager, if you've gone from using those platforms, now you're going to go into administering those platforms. So skills that you may have in terms of that administration, that setup, that cross division, cross department organization are very useful. Change management, I'm going to skip one. Change management is absolutely a key area. Look, it goes without saying, everything that I've said so far. You are going to be looking at changing the way that people work, potentially, in everything that they do, or in little pockets of what they do. So it's going to be skills in terms of understanding how to best implement those changes. You know, in some instances, you will write how a new way of working is, and you'll go to your teams, here's your new way of working. Not often, but there is a call for that. Most of the time, it will be dialogue with them. You'll say, hey, there's the change. Do you want to have a look at it? You'll trial it with some teams. You'll then roll it out with the rest of them, and you'll have that constant feedback and make sure that they're brought in on the journey, that they are on board with those changes, that you support them with those changes when it's either not clear to them or one person is struggling for whatever reason. I do say that there are occasions whereby you do just say, hey, this is what you're now going to do, get on with it, and here's all the instructions. Quite often, if you're a business that is scaling, you've come from a smaller startup sort of place, not that you'll have joined almost certainly at that point, through up to bigger scale up sort of size business. Quite often, some ways of working are just not there. It just needs to happen, just needs to change. And so there will be occasions you'll just go, hey, look, this is it. Get on with it. Everyone go and read this. Everyone now do this from this date and get on. Because actually we need that change just to happen for other linked initiatives throughout the business. And then finally, I just want to come back to maturity and a robust attitude. Product operations can quite often be firstly a selfless task, but also quite a lonely one. Um, it's quite often positioned as slightly separated from the rest of the product team, even though your line management and your org chart says you're part of all of that. You, for better and for worse, you tend to just sit ever so slightly outside of it in terms of, the thinking and how you are positioned. Now, there are some advantages to this. Gives you the ability to go and have good, open conversations with particularly other parts of the business. They can feed back to you, and you say, "Look, I want that feedback. I'm not, I'm not a product manager. I'm not going to take offense to it. I'm going to go and put things in place to change for them to help you, so they can be more open with you on that. You can also then fairly objectively go and put various different things in place, and it's not affecting you directly, the teams that you're working with. But there is always pushback particularly from the people that you're asking to change, and quite often that is the product management team, if not the product division as a whole. They don't want to do it. They don't want to change. They like their ways of working. Quite often it's a few individuals, and I have had some fantastic individuals that just do not want to change. You'll have quite often a real variety of individuals. You'll have those that really embrace change. They want to try new things, particularly if it's automated, if it's saving them any sort of time. They want to try it. They want to be the first people to go at it. They're your champions, absolutely. You'll have a bunch of people that are like, okay, look, I get it, but it's really not top of my priority list and things like that. All right, great, that's the majority. And then you'll have the real detractors, and they'll be very vocal. They'll try to pick holes in everything that you're doing. Quite often it's well, what's the value here? Or it's, well, what research have you done on this? Even though you've asked everybody, well, what's the research? You need to do more. It takes a very robust personality to kind of push back against that, and maturity to understand. This is not maturity to say you need to be older or experienced, but a mature attitude to say, okay, but my role is to still make X, Y, and Z happen. And we are going to do this. And to push back on those individuals maturely, professionally, sensibly, because you know what you're doing is correct. You've got the buy-in from the rest of the team. You've got the buy-in from your leadership in particular, and be able to push on through that without it really deeply affecting you. You have to have that conviction that you're doing the right thing. So this is a lot about kind of your roots in the skills that are very, very useful here.